In this presentation, you will learn about anthropology and its sub-disciplines. Human beings have been always curious. This curiosity has led to progress and search. Several disciplines have emerged to understand the human beings and its creation. For example, political science, which studies power politics, history, which studies the past, economics, which focuses on demand, supply, market, etc. But all these disciplines study a specific area connected to human beings. Anthropology, on the other hand, studies human beings from its origin to present form. In other words, it studies human beings in its totality. This makes anthropology stand out completely from other disciplines. Understanding anthropology. Anthropology is the systematic study, science of nature of human beings. The term is derived from two Greek words, anthropos, which means human, and logos, which means thought, reason, or study. Anthropology often studies simple societies. The subject of anthropology ranges from tribal studies to languages, folklore, social behavior, and even physical structure of human beings. Anthropologists investigate the whole range of human development and behavior, including biological variation, geographic distribution, evolutionary history, cultural history, and social relationships. Hence, it can be called as the science of humanity. Let us look at the origin of anthropology. The Greeks and the Romans can be said to have laid the foundation of anthropology. They also have developed other disciplines like ethics, aesthetics, logic, history. The origin of anthropology can be seen as associated with the growth of civilization of Europe and Middle East. The earliest statement of anthropology was made by Xenophanes in the 5th century BC. He was a Greek philosopher who believed that society was created by human beings themselves. Another important person who had contributed to anthropology is Herodotus. He described the lifestyle of about whom he visited during his travels. He discussed the physical characteristics and language. Three sets of people who wrote about people from different parts of the world were traders, missionaries, and travelers. They recorded the differences of the other culture. That travel accounts is also important for an anthropologist. The writings, however, cannot be seen as anthropological work purely, but to some extent it has been used. The background of the development of the discipline were also several traditions like Enlightenment, French Revolution, idea of progress, and development of natural science. In other words, the scientific and technological revolutions had begun in Europe in the 18th century, which focus on achievement towards individualism. Key scholars and schools of anthropology. In the second half of the 19th century, anthropology became a separate discipline. The colonizers who visited other countries were very curious about the indigenous cultures. They started collecting data regarding technology, language, kinship, religious practices of the other cultures that they visited. They also sponsored several scholars. The first British anthropologist was E.W. Tyler, 1832 to 1917. In his book Primitive Culture, he discusses about the religious beliefs and culture of different societies he was at. He was an evolutionist. There were also other anthropologist scholars like Tyler, for example Morgan, who developed universal patterns of development of culture. These anthropologists were armchair anthropologists, which means they referred to books and came to conclusions. They used comparative method for observing the culture of different societies. After some time, the evolution theory web being criticized and transverse, an American anthropologist came into the picture and he emphasized the importance of doing field work, collecting ethnographic data, and conducting studies. Evolutionary theory was criticized by the diffusionists and functional school of thought, which developed in the 20th century. The definition is to believe that culture diffused from one place to another through migration. The functionalists there are more focused on observing the functions of society than the historical nature of it. Functionist anthropology emphasize the concept of social system. There are two disciplines within anthropology: physical anthropology and cultural anthropology. Let us look at the subdivisions in physical anthropology. Human genetics. This field studies the genesis of man, human heredity. It looks into the physical characteristics that are transmitted from one generation to another through heredity. This field studies the old human skeletons of different stages. It also looks into the history of Earth's evolution. It studies fossils of humans. Ethnology. This field looks into the races and cultures of mankind and compares it from one society to another. It classifies human races and studies their physical characteristics. Ethnology is based upon anthropometry, biometrics as both measure racial characteristics. Anthropometry. This field observes as well as measures human beings. It looks into the physical structures of living human beings as well as human fossils. For example, length of nose, hair, breadth of head, texture of skin, eyes, hair, etc. Biometry is the statistical study of biological aspects of human beings like disease, birth, growth, death, etc. In other words, as the name studies, physical anthropology looks into the physical characteristics of human beings, both past and present. In the Bombay School of Sociology, we study more of cultural anthropology. If you were studying medicine, then that would be a subject of physical anthropology. Several universities have a separate department of anthropology, but in the Mumbai University or Bombay University, we have it together. Let us now look at the subdivisions of cultural anthropology. Prehistory and archaeology. Prehistory studies refer to the study of human beings, a period of human history before written records existed. Archaeology focuses on reconstructing, describing human behavior and cultural patterns through material remains. Folklore. Folklore focuses on the oral traditions narrated among people. It could be proverbs, stories, myths, rituals, customs, or any other form of expressions like art forms. Understanding and recording these symbols are very important to understand the timeline of growth of culture itself. Ethnolinguistics. Linguistic anthropologists study language in its social and cultural context, in space and through time. Applied anthropology uses knowledge to identify, assess, and solve practical problems. It focuses on application, implication. For example, applied medical anthropology considers the socio-cultural context and implication of a disease. Development funds are often wasted if an anthropologist is not asked to identify local needs, demands, priorities, and constraints. Interdisciplinary areas. There are several subdisciplines or interdisciplines like urban anthropology, economic anthropology, medical anthropology, psychological anthropology, anthropology of religion, political anthropology, ecological anthropology, etc. Perspectives in anthropology. Two important dimensions through which anthropology studies is comparison and holistic perspective. Comparison refers to comparing one society with another. For example, New York being compared with Mumbai and drawing out certain common features or differences, like both are metropolitan cities, overpopulated, fast-moving economies, etc. Holistic perspective refers to the problem or community which is being studied and seen from its origin to the present form. Research methods in anthropology. At the heart of anthropology is fieldwork tradition. Fieldwork means the researcher himself or herself visits the community under study and then records its practices and comes to conclusions. The two research methods very popular in anthropology are participant observation and ethnography. In participant observation, the researcher becomes a part of the event under study and then makes his notes and completes his work. For example, the researcher participates in a marriage of a particular tribal group like Varli and then records the rituals, etc. In ethnography, the researcher stays at a village or tribal area for around a year and then observes its day-to-day practices and records those observations and publishes or submits his work. I hope you now have a better understanding of anthropology and its subdivisions. Thank you for watching the presentation. Do like, subscribe, share, and leave your comments about this presentation or any other topic you would like to learn more about.